Hello and welcome back, it's Shrike here with another D&D video, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can make really good looking realistic battle maps for your D&D campaign, sort of like this one here. And the tool we'll be using is called Flowscape. It's a tool that's been around for quite some time, but I've only actually recently started to use it and learn how to use it myself. And I've made some pretty cool maps with it that I thought it would be really good to share with you. So by the end of this video, you'll completely understand how to use Flowscape to make really realistic, good looking battle maps for your D&D game. And recently I've been using it to make battle maps for an upcoming campaign I have that I am going to be streaming here on this channel. So make sure to subscribe if you want to actually see the maps in action, and also if you want to see my style of DMing. And between the actual play sessions, I'll be streaming me setting up the sessions, and that will be making maps, that will be putting it into Foundry VTT, coming up with ideas and stuff like that. So yeah, make sure to subscribe if you want to see me actually... I'm just going to leave that down there for now. So as I was saying, subscribe if you want to see me actually using this tool to make maps for my own campaign that will be streamed here on YouTube. But without further ado, let's jump into Flowscape and I'll show you how it works. So when you load in, you're going to have a few options here that I'm just going to leave as default, but if you want to change them for your own computer, you can do here. And then all you do is press Escape Reality. Once the loading's finished, which it has now, it puts you into a pre-generated map, which just looks like this. It starts off just with the base layer and then it adds different elements on top of it until it gives you a map before you've even had to make anything. So let's see how good this map actually is that it makes. Oh yeah, it's quite a nice little I guess jungly type environment. So the first option that you have to pick is if you want to stay with this randomly generated map, or if you want to clear it or try a different one, and that's just by this box in the top left here. So you can click stay here, clear the plants, which will then just give you the base layer, or try a new seed. We're going to be starting completely from scratch, so I'm going to click clear plants and it will just give you the ground layer just like that. If you are using Flowscape and trying to follow along with this video, there are some things that I like to do right at the beginning. So in the bottom right down here, there is the headphones, and I just like to turn the music and the UI sound off completely, or you can just turn it down yourself because it's quite distracting, it's quite loud. So I just turn them off completely. And if your random seed gave you a snowy environment, you're going to need to know that the slider for how much snow is on the map is just at the top here. So if I turn that to the right as far as it goes, it gives me a thick layer of snow, or you can take it off completely and it has no snow. So if the random seed gave you a snowy environment and you don't want to be making a snowy environment, you're going to have to pull that all the way to the left, or if you are making a snowy environment, you just pull it all the way to the right. So it looks like there's quite a lot of buttons and different things to learn, but don't worry, by the end of this video you'll know it all. I'm not going to go from like top left to bottom right and explain it that way. I'm going to explain what makes sense, so I'll be jumping it over quite a bit, but you can always go back in the video if you missed something. And just in case you're confused how this is a battle map because it's not in the traditional top-down view, let me show you that you can go into this home icon here, you can then click map, and then if you click ortho here, it gives you the top-down view. So that's what we'll do at the very end when we've created the map. And you can put a grid on it just like you would expect, and you can change the size of the grid and do all the stuff you would need to do to have a D&D battle map. So we'll do that at the end once we've made the map. I have just realised that while I was talking about how you make it into a battle map, my camera was actually in the way. So I'm just going to show you again, and there might be a few times throughout the video where I'm talking about it, but actually I'm in the way. So I'm just going to show you this once, how it all works, and then just ignore it if I talk about it again in the rest of the video. So you go up to the menu, you click map, and I'll just move my camera out of the way over to here. And there's this menu down here, and you can click ortho, and that's how you get it down into the top down view. And then there's this 1 times, 2 times, or 4 times, that's the resolution that you want to download the map at. So if you click one of them, it will save it into the Flowscape folder. You can also add a grid by clicking grid. This isn't very helpful because it's a snowy landscape, so let's just change that. So you can put in a grid, and then you can change the size of the grid here and the opacity of the grid here. You can also put on a hex grid as well. So yeah, sorry about that, and enjoy the rest of the video. So the first thing you're going to want to do is choose the style of the ground, I guess is the best way to explain it. And that's by clicking here. And there's some already made for you. So if I click this one, it gives you a beach or riverside sort of map that you can start with. Or there's one here which is slightly different. There's a very water-based one that looks sort of marshy here. What I'm going to do, just so that I can show you how all the tools work, is there is one that just gives you a flat bit of land, just like that. But they do even have a turtle back and a book that you can build something on top of, which is pretty cool, and like a little snow globe style here. But we're just going to be sticking with a flat map so I can teach you everything from scratch. So once you have your ground, you can click this button up here and it will bring up different types of grounds that you can select, and we'll just go through all of this now. So once again, at the bottom there is snow height, that if you have no snow on your map, just take that all the way down to the bottom. There's also terrain size here, which makes it it depends how big or small you're making your map to how you're going to want this. I'm just going to leave it at the smallest one for the time being. And then there's also height, which raises it or lowers it above water level or below water level. But at the moment there's no water on the map, so it just sort of changes the color between the above water ground and then the below water ground. So let's put in some water, and you simply just click water and it adds some water to the map. And now if I change the height, you'll understand that it goes above water there and below water. So we're just going to have it just slightly above the water, just like that for the time being. And now this is the first time we're going to want to move the camera, and you can use the WASD keys while using right click and drag to move your camera around as you need to and just get it in the right position. I just want to zoom out a little bit so that I can see it all properly. And then the next decision I'm going to need to make is what type of ground I want. So I'm going to make a grassy environment. So I'm going to change ground 1 to that type of grass and then ground 2 to that type of grass, and it makes this sort of slightly textured style. But you could put ground 2 to rock, for example, and have it a bit more rocky. You can have it this grass, and the idea here is you have two different ground types that meld together to give you a bit more texture. But just for simplicity, I'm just going to keep it to the two different types of grass here. And then you can also change what the riverbed looks like. So if I take the height down, you'll see that the ground changes as soon as I go below the water. So you can change that to whatever you want below water. So let's put it sandy just to show you the difference. And then as I bring the height up, it will change to the normal one that I picked before. And then because I'm starting from scratch, obviously most land isn't completely flat like this. So you can click sculpt and then it will give you a brush that goes over your map like this. You can change the brush size and strength here, and simply you left click to raise the ground. So I've made a little bump there. You can also use Control Z to undo stuff if you need to. And then you can hold shift and click to reduce it. So we're gonna make actually let's make the brush size a bit bigger so I can do it a bit quicker. And we're just gonna go below water level here. And there you go. Now we've made like a little pool area in the corner of the map. And now you can see the difference between the ground above land and then the ground below the water level. So that's how the sculpting works if you want to make your own type of land, so you can raise bits and lower other bits. Something I did forget to mention as well about the ground types is that there is this tiling slider here, and if you turn it to the right then the tiles become extremely small, which gives it this type of look. But if you turn it to the left it gets bigger and it gives you a different kind of look. So you can play around with that on both of your grounds and your riverbed to try and make it just how you want it. And also you will have noticed that down by the water here there is also ice. So if you click that, then it turns the water to ice. And there's also lava here, so if you click that it changes the water to lava. Obviously it doesn't really make much sense in this grassy scene, but you can use some of the rocky scenes to, now it looks like it's a side of a or inside a volcano or next to a volcano. There's also this random button here that you can keep clicking through, and it just gives you two different random grounds and riverbeds here as well. Okay, so now we have our ground just how we want it. Let's actually start to put some bits on the ground. So on the right hand side here you can see there are some trees that you can put down. There's some bushes and plants, there's some flowers, and then there's some other bits like rocks and mushrooms. You've got some buildings here as well and some animals. And they're pretty much all of the different things that you can put together. But we're going to start with trees. We're going to put some trees on the map. And it's as simple as clicking the type of tree that you want to put, go over to the map and left click, and it will put a tree where you click. So you can just go around to the map and just click where you want to put trees, and it will put them where it is, and you can make a map that way. But there's also another way you can do it by just holding click down and going across the map, and it will put a load of trees where you click your mouse. So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see what that looks like. And this is where all the buttons along the top become important. So this first slider on the left here is the density. So if I put that right down and then I click and drag, you can see that the trees are a lot less dense than the first one. Whereas if I put it all the way to the right and then I click and drag, it's going to add loads and loads of trees. The one to the right of that is how quickly they grow. So if I pull it all the way to the left and then I click and drag, you see that they just pop up really quickly. Whereas if I do it all the way to the right and then I click, you can see that they slowly grow. This is just a personal preference of how you like it to look. The one to the right of that is the size of the object that you want to put on. And this is where you learn about scale for Flowscape. So if I put that really small and I also change the density really high, and then I drew it all over my map, this now looks like a sort of mountain range or a hill range from a distance. Whereas if I got rid of all of them and I make the trees quite big and lower the density, this now looks like it could be the side of a river. So that's why in this tool you can make complete landscapes with cities and all kinds of cool things like that, or you can make battle maps which are on the side of a river like this one. The slider to the right of that is all about size variation. So as I was doing that, you're seeing that some of the trees are big and some of them are small. If you want them all the exact same size, you can put that down as low as it can go, and then all the trees will be the same size, or you can put it really high and then there'll be a big variation between all of the trees. The slider to the right of that is all about how randomly they lean. So it's all the way to the left at the moment, so you see that all the trees point upright, which most trees should do, but if you put it all the way to the right, they will randomly go to the left and right. I'm not sure if you can see that very well on the video, but some are pointing out to the right, some are pointing out to the left, some are going straight up, and it looks like that. This is good if you're trying to put stuff onto rocks and stuff like that, but generally with trees you wouldn't use this. So there are all these sliders along the top, but there are some buttons as well. So this first one is if it aligns to terrain or to the world, i.e. do they point upwards or do they point in the direction of the ground? So if I turn it to point in the direction of the ground and I put a tree there, you'll see that it juts out from the side like so. So it looks a bit weird doing this with trees because that's not how trees grow. Whereas if I turn it off and then do one, it points upwards like you would expect from a tree. But for example, if you were trying to put some flowers down, it doesn't look so weird them coming out from a slight angle to the terrain. The next button is if you want to drop the item onto the ground or if you want to place it. And this works with stuff like rocks. So if I go to these rocks and I click, you see that it falls from the ground, and using the physics, it will land when it's stopped rolling. So if you want to give it a bit more of a realistic feel, you can chuck some rocks about and it will just throw them on the ground. This especially works if you're making a woodland and there's these sticks, so you can chuck some sticks down. They're quite large sticks, but you can make some smaller sticks, chuck them around, and it will land where physics makes it land. Whereas if you have that button turned to look like this, then when you place it, it will just come up on the ground where you click. The button to the right of that is Procedural Generation. So if I go to a tree and I click this and I click go, it will randomly start spawning it in the world until you press stop. And there are two sliders here, which basically you can choose how high up or low down you want it to put it by. So where it's red, it won't put it. Where it's blue, it will put it. And it's using the sliders along the top to work with the generation. So if you put the density all the way up and you put the sides all the way down and press no, it's going to make one of those landscape forests like we looked at earlier in the video. To the right of that button there are three buttons that all work together, and it's about where the object can be placed. So if I put in a rock somewhere, so let's put this rock, let me just make it a bit bigger. Put in a big rock here, and then we've got the land and we've got the water. So if I unclicked this, that would no longer let me place stuff on the terrain. If I unclick this, it would no longer let me place it on the rocks, and if I unclick this, it would no longer let me place it in the water. So if I pick some flowers, and let's just put the brush size down a little bit, and I click on this one to no longer allow me to place flowers on the rock, and I click the rock, you can see it doesn't put it on the rock, but it will still let me put it onto the land. And then vice versa, if I allowed it to go on the rock and not on the land, and then I click the rock, it will then grow the flowers on the rock, but I won't be able to grow it on the land. So this is good if you're using the brush tool and, for example, you want to put some mushrooms on the rock and you don't want to accidentally get it on the ground around it. You can make sure that you just have rocks selected and that you have the terrain unselected, and then you can click and drag and it will make mushrooms on the rock, but you won't accidentally get some on the ground. And then the last slider on this top here is this snowy one that we've already spoken about a bit. You can make it a snowy terrain by just bringing it to the right, and if you do it a little bit, it just adds a little bit of snow, but you can also put it all the way to the left to have no snow at all. The buttons in between that are all about the camera and working around the map. So if you click this person, it actually drops you into the world and you can walk around like you would in a video game. It's very easy to get stuck on stuff, like I just got stuck on something there. So it's not the best, but it's still quite cool that you can run around and have a look at your map from the view of a person. The video camera to the right of that is to record whatever you're looking at now. So next up, I'm going to place a house onto this map just like that and show you this tool here. So the very top one is a transform tool. So you can click one, and then when you select an object, you can raise it up, move it to the side, or move it through this axis here, or you can use the one below it, which will then let you rotate the object however you want, and then put it there so you can rotate it whichever way you want. And then this one here will shrink it, or it will transform it in this sort of style. So obviously you wouldn't really want a house like this, but it's quite good that you can use these tools to really customize the map and have it exactly how you want. If you ever want to delete something, you just hover your mouse over it and then press your delete key and it will get rid of it. There's also a rubber which is below that, so you can click and you can rub out stuff and it will take stuff off of the terrain just like that. It works quite well, but sometimes, like it just there, it removed that rock. So maybe I didn't want that rock to be removed, I just wanted the trees to be removed. So let's put that rock back in. And to lock that so that it can't be removed again, you can just press the L key while hovering your mouse over it and it will lock it. So if I use that erase tool in the future, it won't remove those rocks. So two more things to show you before we actually start making a map and you can see it in action is that this button down here sorts out the horizon, so you can change it to different views. So you could change it to this sort of just reminds me of Scotland. I'm from the UK and this is pretty much what Scotland looks like. And you can change it to loads of different views if you like in the background. It doesn't really help your D&D maps, but it's quite cool to know that it's there. And then there's also a few different options with the sun. So there's some sliders up here where you can change the direction, and you can even see there that the sun reflects off of water. You can change the intensity as well depending on what time of day, the height. So there's quite a few different things that you can change to give a different light style to your maps. There are also different options down here for the sky and for the camera, but generally for your battle maps you're not going to need them, but you can come here and play around with them if you like. And in this button just above the horizon one here, if you come in here and click ocean, it actually adds the rest of the map as an ocean, which can be quite cool if you're making a dock or something at the side of an ocean, because then just the horizon just goes on forever as ocean, and it looks quite cool. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about how to use the tool. I'm just going to click the map maker down here as well to show you once again what it will look like, and then you can export it by pressing one of these buttons and it will put it into a Flowscape folder where you can then import it into whichever tabletop software you use. Well, let's go ahead and finish off this map now. I'm actually going to keep this ocean horizon there. I think it's quite nice to look at least. So let's chuck down some more rocks. I'm just going to move my camera away a little bit. We're going to put the density right down, and I'm just going to chuck some rocks around the map. Maybe a few different styles of rocks as well. Let's chuck some of these ones down as well. Chuck some rocks around. There you go. And then we're going to add some trees. So let's use these trees. I'm going to make sure the density is quite down and the size is quite down. And we're going to chuck some trees around, just like so. There you go. There's some trees. I just realized they're all roughly the same size because I didn't change the slider, but I think I'm okay with that. I'm just going to put some more back here as well. This is going to be a very quick map. I usually do take a bit more time on my maps, but we're just going to quickly throw something together. It's something I haven't actually. Let's do the bushes first before I go into that. So let's pick some bushes, and we're going to up the density a little bit. And we're just going to chuck them around the map. Let's move over here and chuck some more down. Some down here as well. The camera takes some getting used to moving, but you get there in the end. And there you go. Okay, cool. So now let's add some flowers. I'm going to add quite a lot of flowers, so we're going to make them quite dense. Let's just chuck them all around the space to add some. So there, I believe I accidentally put not quite actually. So because I had the water selected here, I could in theory put flowers in the water, which I don't want, and I don't want them on rocks either. So I'm just going to undo those two up here, and then it will make sure that it only puts it on the ground like so. So I'm just going to chuck some around. I'm just going to turn the camera, do it up here so I can see it all a bit while I just chuck some flowers around. And then let's also pick some yellow flowers and chuck them around as well. There you go. You've got some different flowers about the place here. And then because it's quite a foresty area, let's pick some sticks as well. And let's make sure the drop function is on. And we're just going to drop some sticks around on the ground that have fallen from the trees. Right, and then the last thing to do, something that we haven't really looked at yet, is animals. So you can come into the animals, and I'm going to pick some butterflies, and we're just going to chuck some butterflies. Oh, I actually kept the density quite high, so that was quite a lot of butterflies. So let's lower that down, and let's just chuck some butterflies around the map, all over the place. And really, you're probably not going to see this in the battle map, but it does add to the realism of this map while you're looking here. Maybe a rabbit or two as well. Let's just chuck some rabbits about. There you go. There's some rabbits on the map now. There is even a dragon. We're not going to put that in this map, but I'll show you what it looks like. You can see that there's this dragon that you can chuck onto your map as well. There's some fish as well to put in the water. But we'll leave it there. And what I might do actually is get a house and put a house on the river side here or on the ocean side, and you can use the scroll wheel to go through different styles of an asset. So you can choose a house that you like. So I like that house, and then you can also use shift and scroll wheel to rotate it. And you can use Alt and scroll wheel to reduce the size as well. So I can put that just here. I'm just going to chuck it there because there's no trees there. And then once it's there, it's not quite lined up with the ground. So we're going to go to this tool here. We're just going to select it. And I'm going to, oh, I used the wrong one. So we're going to select this one here. And then we're just going to drop it down a bit. So it looks like it does actually fit into the ground. Let's in fact put it this way a bit. There you go. And then we have a little house at the side of the river. It's not perfect because I'm just showing you how it works. So I would usually fiddle around with that a bit more to get it just right. But it didn't take me that long to chuck this together. It's a very basic map which just had some trees, bushes, some rocks, some flowers, some animals and a house in it. You can see it's pretty simple. I'm just going to come down to floor level. Let's see if we can walk around it a bit. I think we're going to get stuck on stuff, but yeah, you can see like there's a little rabbit there eating away. There's some flowers, trees, and then if I click on the OFO, there you go. I now have a D&D battle map, and I can just export it by using one of these buttons depending how high a resolution you want it, or you could in theory record this if you wanted an animated map as well. So if you did want to be able to see this ocean moving here and the small butterflies moving about and the rabbits bouncing about, then you could also either record this with a screen recorder, or you could use the record function in the app and export it that way. And there you have it. That's how Flowscape works and how you can make really good looking realistic maps using it. If you found the video helpful, please do give it a like. It helps me to grow this channel. And as I said at the beginning, I'm going to be using maps from Flowscape as well as other tools like Incarnate in a live play game that I'll be streaming here on my YouTube channel. So make sure to subscribe to see them. If you have any questions about Flowscape or any other tools really that I might have used, put them down in the comments below and I'll make sure to get back to you, give you a helping hand. But until next time, happy gaming.